Perfect.
That sounds fucking pro, that. Right, we're live. We've got another special guest. We've got Will Smyth with a Y. Will,
right,
do you want to intro yourself a little bit and give us a bit of background, and we'll get cracking?
Yeah.
Cool. So I'm from Leeds. I don't sound like it, but I was born up here. So grew up down in Northampton. Been living back up here now for about 12 years. And then, my kind of area is physique modelling, but also CrossFit as well. And I'm a biology teacher, which is a slightly strange combination for someone that competes in physique sports and, that does the other bits that I've done and grown up playing rugby, racing push bikes, lots of different things. So, some interesting kind of aspects.
Yeah, there's a lot in there. So a little bit more about your early life then. So have you always been into physique and like working out, or is that something that's...
Not at all. Like, I've kind of always been into sport and I've grown up playing lots of different sports, but it was always based around endurance. So my dad kind of got me into things from running to cycling, and then from that I always played a little bit of rugby, but not too seriously. Growing up in Northampton, football team were pretty terrible. Rugby team were quite good, so that was what everyone was interested in down there. You didn't know what rugby league was growing up down there either. So although I was born up here, I was like, rugby what? When I moved back up, and won't get into the debate about that. It's one of those. So grew up playing that, but always training for performance. About the age of 16, started to take the cycling very seriously. Grew up racing against some of the top cyclists that we've had in this country, and raced right up until I was about 22, all over Europe, and represented Halford, and raced at a good level. I was one of the top 10, top 15 in the country, road, cyclocross, and cross country. So very, very different to what I do now. That was kind of not eating that much, 75 kilos when I stopped racing, trying to be as fast as I can, spending upwards of 20 hours a week on a bike, hundreds of miles, thousands a year. And very quickly kind of, I suppose took it too seriously, fell out of love with the sport a little bit, stopped, and then decided to play rugby again. Put on 3 or 4 stone and haven't looked back since. It's been great fun. So
it's a big transition from cycling to rugby.
Yeah, it is. Like, there aren't many people that kind of do both. Like, some of the people that cycle are interested in rugby, but they're very different sports as well. They've got that team element, but essentially with the bike racing, depending on where you are, you're out by yourself, training by yourself, a little bit like you are with physique and bodybuilding type shows. But then you've got the backup of your team when you meet up on race day. You're all kind of working for each other to try and get a result. Yeah. And then the rugby's all about the team camaraderie, the kind of having the beers afterwards, all that social side. And one little mistake by one player or someone who's not putting in the effort can affect everyone in a rugby situation. So ups and downs of team sports versus individual ones. And I've learned a lot from being involved in both kind of, and seeing the endurance side of training from, 20 hours plus on bikes a week to the high intensity side with CrossFit, and then the real anaerobic stuff with the weightlifting as well. It's an interesting mix, and it gives me a good perspective.
So how did you get yourself and become a biology teacher from doing that then? How did that happen?
When I finished university, I went to Liverpool for uni, and I was living in York at the time and working in mental health hospitals out there. I'd worked in a lot of medium secure hospitals doing the kind of healthcare type work in those, and really enjoyed it, really enjoyed working with the patients, helping and supporting them. And there was a real mixture of different patients that you got to work with in these hospitals. And then I was kind of like, I might do my training in that, because I was interested in my degree that I did. It was biological sciences, but it didn't lead straight into a career. It wasn't like if you did physiotherapy, you went and became a physio. And as much as I was interested in sports science, there weren't necessarily that many jobs in it that were paying well. And I was kind of playing with different ideas, and then decided, do I want to be involved in a job that's got a lot of physical restraint in it, which the mental health care work does have? Or do I want a job where when I'm 50, I can still be doing it and not have to worry about kind of any of that side of it and the confrontation that comes with it, which unfortunately in those hospitals is part and parcel of it. Decided then to go with teaching instead, because I thought if you're involved in the schools and that side of thing, and I still had an interest in the mental health work, then you'd be having an impact before some cases kind of got to that level, and you could kind of not necessarily intervene. I'm not going to be like, I was there to save children from becoming mentally unwell, but
definitely play a part.
Yeah, that's it. Be part of journeys, help to inspire some people along the way and help them to do the right things. So it was, not a tough decision for me. I went into teaching and then did the PGCE route at Hull Uni, travelled across to there, did my training. I've been doing it now for about 10 years. So it's been a good 10 years. It's not everything it's cracked up to be, finishing at 3 holidays, that kind of thing, although we're sat here on half term, so that works out quite well. But it's hard work, but it's a good job.
Yeah, you get
Nice.
plenty of stick for the holidays, don't you?
Oh, you
Like,
do.
anyone like us, it's just like my cousin's a teacher, and I'm just like, yeah, it's all right for you. You got 6 weeks off. Shut up. Like, stop
This is
moaning.
it, this is
But
it,
yeah,
like,
there's a lot of
It
there's
has
a lot
its
more
ups
to it.
and
than
downs. Like the biggest problem I ever have is if there's a stag do and everyone's like, "Oh, we're going on the Friday," and I'll be like, "Brilliant, yeah, I can't make the Friday. I've got work." And they're like, "Can't you get day off?" And you're like, "No, you can't get day off as a teacher. It just doesn't happen."
Yeah.
So that's the hardest bit. And then all your holidays are more expensive because it's term time, like, or not holiday times for everyone else.
Yeah,
So,
it's
but,
steep.
you know, yeah, can't complain too much. The summer holiday is brilliant. So.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, that's it. So when you're working in schools, then how is it? What's your days looking like, and how do you manage all
My
the
kind
different
of daily routine almost.
Well, that and dealing with all the different like characters that you'll come across in a day, because
Yeah, like,
it must be so broad. I remember
Yeah.
being at school, there was every Tom, Dick and Harry that you can imagine. Really,
Definitely. And, you know, I'm different to every other teacher as well, and everyone's a little bit individual. And, you know, the kids are still learning how to read and react to people. And as much as every school's kind of got its policies that you follow and all of that kind of stuff to make it simple, you know, a lot of the time the kids do struggle with that. But on the whole, like, I've just started a new job, and that's going really well. Kids there are great. I've been doing it for so long now that I've kind of found my feet. I've got my teaching style. I do pretty well at it. So, yeah, that's working nicely. And, you know, like, yeah, it's not one of those compared to working in mental health hospitals. Like, the kids are really easy and straightforward to deal with. I've worked in behaviour schools as well with kids that have been expelled and excluded from everywhere. And again, you know, it's different challenges, but the kids on the whole, kids are kids. They're not bad. It's just, you know, what they've learned, and they're putting up defence mechanisms, barriers to try and avoid doing work most of the time because they don't see the importance of it. Once you get past that and you break the barriers down and you get to know them, they're fine. They generally enjoy lessons when they're safe and they can get on, so they're quite happy.
yeah. I always remember finding my lessons easier when the teachers were younger.
Yeah, me too.
I used to
Well,
always.
click with
It's going to
your
go
teeth.
downhill soon for me.
Yeah, I don't know how old you are actually. But I always remember that, like, my history teacher, he was class, and he'd be considered as like a younger teacher. My geography teacher the same. A lot of my PE teachers as well.
Yeah.
And I don't know, they seem to have a different way about engaging with you. I don't know. Did you find that?
I think I observe that a lot. Like, I spend quite a lot of time in lessons watching other teachers as well, and you do see the kids are different with younger teachers to older teachers, and you also see the older teachers sometimes as well have relationships almost like parents with the kids, and the kids respond really well to that in some cases and not so well in others. But yeah, it's one of those, the age thing. I think, you know, sometimes the kids like it because they're like, oh yeah, like, Sir gets us because he's a bit younger, and then it's like other times, no, like, it just doesn't wash. But then it becomes that kind of, particularly with like sixth formers, they like to try and have a bit of banter and that kind of thing. And,
Yeah.
you know, that's, you know, tricky for the students then when something isn't banter and they're like, oh, I thought we could joke about that. And it's like, no, you've got to work now. And they're like, where does it stop? Where does it start? So the big thing with them, and it doesn't matter what age, is just consistency. And it sounds dead boring, but it's like, you know, you're not necessarily yourself when you're in a classroom teaching. You know, you can't put on an act for the whole time, but you are there to sell your subject, get the kids on board and do that side of it. So it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
In terms of like attitudes, bit of a tricky question. So comparing yourself when you were back at school and sort of the attitude that kids brought across in the way they interacted with teachers, would you say there's a big difference now in terms of how kids carry themselves? Or would you say
Do you know what? The kids get a really hard time in the media. And you see it all the time, like groups of teenagers are this and they're that, and you very rarely see any positives about them, especially young teenage lads. They get it in the neck all the time for everything. They only need to be stood somewhere in a group and they're intimidating people, and it's tough for them. You know, the girls don't have it much easier either, you know, and they've got the whole social media thing, which wasn't around when I was a kid. And yeah, school for me wasn't too bad. It was just all based around sport, really. I was at boys' school, so all that mattered was if you were good at sport or if you were hard, and that was the kind of the key things. And luckily I was good at sport because I wouldn't have been too good if I had to fight my way out of some of the situations. But yeah, it's very different now, and I think there's a lot more awareness of things like, you know, social media, the mental health side of things. There's a lot more supportive care in the schools for the students as well than there used to be.
Oh, so that does exist then. Like I didn't want to. I want to talk about social media a bit later on, but now you brought it up. Like, what do you see social media having a negative effect on the kids at school, or would you say
it's both? Like, in some situations, it's brilliant because there's good information getting put out that's helping the students to understand things and to learn about the world around them, and it makes the globe smaller for them, so they're learning a bit more all the time. And I've run kind of revision type resources and things online for kids as well through social media. That's been really useful. kind of putting up questions that relate what we're doing in the classroom to real life situations. But then at the same time, you've got the whole cyberbullying, you've got the whole kids are addicted to their phones, they can't put them down, you've then got all the time they're spending on them, the distractions, and that does have a negative impact on them, definitely. And then in schools, you've got, kids trying to use Snapchat under the desk or send messages to each other around the classroom and this kind of thing. And it's like, no one's daft. We all know, kids want to be on their phones and they're obsessed with them. You take them off them and they have a meltdown. But yeah, it has to be the way. And you guys know as well, like you can't just live on your phone at work unless you've got a job that needs you to be on it all the time. You won't get anything done, and the kids struggle with that. So that's the biggest negative I see with it.
Yeah, we've actually never had anyone in schools, have we? And we've all, social media and mental health is always tied together, and it always comes up on a podcast at some point, or pretty frequent. And I think it was Mike Parr that mentioned like how he found that kids in his family are a little bit more into themselves now. Like they were not, like confidence seems to be a bit lacking nowadays. Well, that's what he was saying, because I don't really know. I'm not hanging around with kids or whatever, so it's
really individual, I think. And you've got some that are, they're streaming their computer gaming, they're getting their followings and all this kind of stuff. You've got others that are kind of putting out this image, if you like, on social media, and that are obsessed with the idea of trying to be like an influencer. And I know when you had Sarah and she was talking about some of the girls having ambitions of being like reality TV stars, or the guys are like, I can make a living doing that. And fair play to them if they want to try and do that, but it's a lot more hard work than I think they realise. And it's also, for a lot of people, not going to happen. And if they haven't got a backup plan, they're in a poor situation then. So it's one of those. And like the bit that we don't talk about with it, we talk about the mental health, but we don't talk about the physical side of it as well. And the posture of the kids in general is terrible, because they're all permanently kind of hunched over, forward head position, rounded necks, shoulders have gone. And, long term, we're looking at a time bomb there with their kind of postures, and then being able to even just get their arms over their head because they're spending so long like this sat down. And then the other parts, the blue light off the phones. I know I'm a little bit like hippie on this kind of stuff as well. I'm not saying they all need to be wearing blue blockers or anything like that, but something to be aware of. We'll be looking at macular degeneration in years, and, we'll run out of guide dogs or various other issues in the future potentially. It's like, it's a big thing that the kids aren't aware of, and even we as adults are still learning about. And even, right down to the microwaves and the Bluetooth and the Wi-Fi. We don't know what's going to happen 40, 50 years on.
No.
Yeah.
That's it. We don't know the negative effect of that yet. That's yet to be found out.
To be fair, we're at the age our brains have stopped growing. What's it going to do to their brains? And people are hypothesising and coming up with suggestions on it, but we'll have to see. And I think anything in excess like that could put them at a bit of a risk, and they need to be wary of it. But you start trying to tell them that, or tell them you've got to put your phone away, they'll be like...
That's it. Like, do you know the whole blue light thing's a good it's a good thing, because when you're a kid, the one thing you definitely need is sleep, because you can sleep for fucking hours as a teenager, can't you? Like you can sleep for like 12 hours and you're like still knackered or whatever. So I think you need that when you're growing. And then obviously the negative effect is they're on their phone all the time. Blue light is going to keep them awake, and it's a vicious circle. And you're right. I think no one's going to know. We can all kind of sit here and surmise about what's ifs and buts and maybes, but it's kind of scary in a way that we have to wait and see what happens to a whole generation. Yeah. Then what?
That's it. We're going to be suing phone companies in the future because they didn't put warnings on the boxes, or who knows what's going to happen. But it's one of those, you can't avoid it. It's part of life. You've got to get on with it. But I think everything in moderation is a big part of it, isn't it? If you ever turn your Wi-Fi off and go to sleep, sometimes you wake up in the morning, you feel better than if you slept with your Wi-Fi on.
I might try that.
Yeah, I might try that.
Should we try it tonight?
What, as in your router that
in the whole house?
Yeah. Like my missus goes mad at me because I'd be doing all kinds of daft stuff like this all the time, and she's like, put the light bulbs back to normal, turn the Wi-Fi back on. Like, I sleep better, and she's like, I don't care. So she kind of keeps me grounded. But these kinds of, they're little things, and you just experiment with them and see where you go, see how you feel.
Yeah, definitely. I'm gonna give that a try.
Yeah, do you know what? I follow a few people on Instagram, and they've been doing a lot of stuff around like CBD oil before going to sleep, wearing blue light blockers like from like 7 p.m. onwards and stuff like that, to see how much it can improve the sleep. Yeah, it's quite interesting. And do you know what? I never got around to reading the book Why We Sleep. I listened to a podcast by the author when he was on Joe Rogan, and it was pretty fucking mental, like some of the stuff he was saying. So it's one of my to-do list, like on my reading list.
Some fascinating stuff on sleep out there, and the impact it has on us. It's the first thing, if you take it away, like you think of kind of interrogation techniques, they pull you sleep and you'll straight away be screaming and telling them all your secrets. And then, you know, in terms of your performance, if you're an athlete, you're 8 hours plus, definitely up to 10 hours. A lot of the guys that you've had in will be really prioritising it and trying to get that sorted. I know when I'm looking at my shows, it's one of the number one things I work on. And it is so important, and making sure the quality of it is as good as you can get, because it's so easy for us to be like, I was asleep. But then you're like, was it good quality sleep? And, you know, there's various apps and things out there, and I'm not big into tracking stuff on apps, but it does give you a little bit of an insight into, you know, where your sleep's at, and you can kind of then try out some of these different things. And even just getting daylight, you know, like today's a beautiful day outside, isn't it? And a lot of us will have been stuck inside, and you get outside for that 10 minutes, your body knows it's daytime, it receives all that light, all that information's going in, and then it knows it's nighttime later on, you're going to sleep better.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's it. Like for me, whenever like winter makes me realise like how much like daylight plays a big difference. Like, like I've had to go to the doctors to get like my vitamin D is like low in my body, so I've got to take some supplement pills to supplement that. But yeah, being out in the sun, you just feel so much better in and out in daylight.
That's it. Like the vitamin D thing's interesting as well, isn't it? Because they, the majority of the population in Northern Europe, they think is pretty much deficient in vitamin D, and it's a D3, isn't it? I think that they will have given you, and you know the amounts that you need of that. It's almost referred to as being like more of a hormone than a vitamin, and it's well,
that's it. It causes depression, doesn't it? It can lead to feeling low energy, or like lull.
Yeah, all kinds of things. And you know, there's a lot of, you know, publicity and people trying to sell vitamins out there, obviously, but I think that is one of them. It's certainly one that's in my daily regime, and it's something that, you know, I notice a difference if I don't take it, so I keep that going all year round.
Yeah, sounds like you do a lot of research into anything that you'll plan and implement into your nutrition. And
definitely, like obviously being a science teacher, that's my background, and I'm just a big science geek.
So you enjoy the research as well.
That's it. I enjoy. I'm always listening to other podcasts on this one and various information and books and Audible and stuff as I'm driving around, and I find it really, really interesting. So just experimenting and seeing what works for me as well is a big part of it, because everyone's individual. You know, we can get genetic tests done, but again, we're only scratching the surface with our knowledge on that. So it's a case of trying something 3 weeks in, have a step back, see how you feel, take it away, see if you feel better or worse, and then make your decision on whether you carry on doing it, whether it's your training, your nutrition. It's kind of my methodology for everything, and the people that I work with as well, the few people that I do PT, that's kind of the route we go down.
Yeah, I think that's a good message for life, though, because being able to step back and reflect on what you're doing is so rare for people to actually do that. People are just setting like autopilot, and then they get there.
It's not until people have like a big crash and then they look back and
or they'll look back, or they'll see a picture like, oh shit, I'm fat now. You were getting fat for weeks, mate, but you've only just realised. But if you'd have taken a step back maybe after 2 weeks, or you've been weighing yourself, you know, consistently and see what you were doing, you might come up to a different solution a little bit faster.
It's that reflective mindset, isn't it? That idea of kind of stepping back, and you know, a lot of people like to employ a coach to do it, but I often think you've got to know yourself as well, and having the ability to step back and be like, you know, what have I done right? How can I improve that? Or is this getting better? Is it not getting better? And so many people find themselves doing the same thing again and again and again, whether it's, you know, icing an injury every week and the injury is not getting better is really common with kind of rugby players and stuff, or doing the same training thing and they're like, my time's not getting any faster, and it hasn't for the last 3 weeks, and they just carry on doing the same thing until eventually they get fed up and go, and it's definition of madness, isn't it? Doing the same thing repeatedly, expecting a different result. And, I think it's hard to get out of that rut, because for whatever reason you decided to follow that path, and it's so confusing. Then what do you do instead, or what do you change? And that's where, you know, coaches can be useful, I think, and getting that extra insight or doing that extra bit of research comes in.
Yeah. Have you ever applied that into your teaching when you've seen kids maybe struggling, and definitely. You know, because people learn in so many different ways, don't they? Totally.
It's a massive part of teaching, and you know, when you do your teacher training, and I mentor teachers as well as part of my role at the schools I work at, and you do the feedback afterwards, you do the evaluation of your lesson, and one of the first questions is you ask kind of, what do you think went well? What do you think you could change? Or each summer you get your results back in and you look at those and you kind of like, right, why didn't that kid kind of make the progress I wanted them to? Or why did these students make the progress? Or why didn't they answer that question? You get the test papers back and you break it down. There's a lot of analysis and evaluation with it. It's really important in that job.
Yeah.
No, so to jump onto the training side of things, and this might sound a bit of a silly question, but why do you train? What's the reason for it? Is it to keep fit? Is it for the looks? What's your motive behind training?
It's a good one, that. Like, originally I started and it was all about training for performance. It was, I'd run down at the running track twice a week. I'd go to rugby training and it was all sport specific, and then I'd do the cycling as well. And then now it's kind of changed in that I really, really enjoy it. It's almost like a kind of therapy. You switch off and you go into that state, and it's not meditative, but some people might say it is, I suppose, where you're just focused on doing something really simple. I'm going to lift the weight from there to there as many times as I can in 10 minutes, or, today's the start of the CrossFit Open. So after I've finished here, I'm off to the gym and I've got 15 minutes of rowing and wall balls to put myself through as many as I can. And it's simple. When I'm doing that, I won't be thinking about anything else. Nice bit of clarity. At the end of it, I'll feel, totally shattered for a couple of minutes and then feel great afterwards. And I really enjoy that part of it. And especially I find in the morning, just doing that little bit early doors, getting up, just sets me up for the day. And it makes me feel better. So that's really the real reason I do it. I enjoy the process as well. I'm not one of these people that hates being in the gym or hates being out on the bike or out running or anything. I really enjoy doing whatever training it is, any type of physical activity. Even if I'm terrible at it, I enjoy the challenge of it. And it's great being a beginner as well, and kind of learning stuff for the first time is always refreshing with any type of exercise.
Yeah, that's big. I mean, for me, it's the same exact thing what you mentioned, like just doing it, then you just feel good, like you can switch off and like put your day behind you and like just get into like a zone, and then after you just feel great, feel better for it. So with CrossFit then, how long have you been doing CrossFit for?
Properly 3 years.
3 years?
Yeah.
Yeah, because we was talking about CrossFit the other day. Like at first, when CrossFit first came out, it got a lot of like stick.
You got
does.
fucking
Absolutely
around.
hammered. I was there. I was hammering it. I was like,
You're a convert.
look at this. I was, honestly. And I was, at the time, I was training just for rugby. CrossFit wasn't the best program for me, so I could hammer it from that point of view. And that was all I knew. And years went by. And I remember there was a friend who, he started doing the CrossFit and he started to make quite quick progress. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. I was like, but still we're no good for rugby. Still no good for rugby. You still couldn't play rugby. And I was like, yeah. So I did my own thing, which looking back at it wasn't massively dissimilar. There were a lot of barbell complexes, bodyweight circuits, all that kind of thing. But just doing that by myself in the gym, and I really enjoyed it. It worked well for my rugby. I had a good routine of kind of what I do, and I didn't look massively different or anything like that. Performed probably not as well, if I'm honest. And then when I started doing the CrossFit, I think when you're doing the Metcon bit, which is synonymous with CrossFit, it's a different state of mind because you're really pushing yourself really hard. If you're doing just intervals on a bike or a rower, it's not quite the same. Your heart rate's not quite where it is. And my last 2 seasons of rugby, when I was doing CrossFit regularly, I felt so much better on the pitch. Just fitness-wise, it was through the roof. I had to manage it carefully, obviously, recovering around club training and games and that side of stuff. But on the whole, it felt really good.
Yeah, so, for me, like, what is Metcon? What actually is that?
Yeah, so Metcon's metabolic conditioning. So when we see most kind of CrossFit things, it's people doing a wide variety of exercises at high intensity. That's kind of what CrossFit goes along with. And they're always, deadlifting with heart rates that are really jacked up because they've just come off a rowing machine or something. That's only a part of CrossFit, like the metabolic conditioning part. But if you go into a CrossFit gym, that's the majority of what your time will be spent doing. Your warm up, you might do a little bit of strength work, and then it will just be ploughing through something that's pretty torturous and pretty hard work. But the good gyms, and you guys are lucky you've got kind of Utopia just down the road, and the one I work at, 101. A little bit further up is, they take the time, they coach it, they break down the mechanics, that side of things, so that you can then get that strength working as well as finishing with a bit of hard conditioning. And, every day of the week doing that isn't the best way to do it, but training every day of the week isn't always the best thing either. So it is what you make of it, and you use it like a tool. I always think you cherry pick the best things out of it, and CrossFit's quite good for that because there will be the odd bit of isolation work or the odd bit of strict work where it's just doing pull-ups and press-ups, and then you do a little bit of running afterwards or something, and that's great. You get a real mixture and a really varied diet of training, whereas I don't know kind of how you guys train, and if you kind of go to a conventional gym, you might do body part splits, or you might do whole body workouts, or you might do kind of weights days and cardio days. That's all good, but again, it's something that if you keep doing it, eventually, if you're doing body part splits, they were originally set up for bodybuilders. If your goal's not to be a bodybuilder, then I'd suggest that training like one probably isn't the best thing, and you're not going to get the best response from your body either, because if you haven't got 18-inch arms, having an arm day isn't going to generate enough of a stimulus to do anything.
See a lot of people doing arm days.
Yeah, I'm guilty of that.
But it's like, it's kind of what you think, and I've been there myself, and I've done it before I started really focusing on the rugby. When I first stopped my cycling, I was like, I need to get bigger arms, read Muscle and Fitness, and there's an article in there how to get bigger arms, and you follow what's in there, and everyone does it. And back then there wasn't as much information on the internet, so yeah, you kind of go through this process, and you're eating every 2 to 3 hours, and then over time you start to learn that some of these things probably aren't that good, and things like bulking and cutting as well. If your goal's not to be a bodybuilder, going on a crazy bulk and trying to put on loads of weight isn't great. What most people find, and rugby's synonymous with this as well, is that you go on this big bulk in the off season, you get up to you put a stone or two of weight on, you're like, yeah, I look massive, all I've got to do is cut down and then I'll be ready for the season. Either players never cut down and they never get ready for the season and they end up just being heavier, or they do cut down and they're back to exactly where they started because they cut down so aggressively on their calories and everything else. They just don't make any progress, and it's a tricky one. Like those kind of programs where it was body part splits and cutting and bulking, they've come from a bodybuilding world which unfortunately has a lot of drug use in it, and those programs were developed around that to get a huge amount of volume into certain body parts so that they could develop those. And there's a time and a place for isolation exercises, I believe, and I think they are important. But we've all seen the bodybuilders that turn up for arm day, turn up for chest day, they forget back and leg day because they've had to work or something, and by the end of the year they're kind of all hunched over. And it's a case of getting that right. And bodybuilding's a great sport, and those guys, they put themselves through a lot of stress on their bodies to get the physiques that they get. But for the most average people, it's not attainable. It's kind of not what they're going for, and that's kind of where the physique shows and the athletics and the kind of almost like the CrossFit appearance has kind of come through. It's much more in proportion. I don't want to say in proportion because bodybuilders are in proportion, but
we don't have that freaky look.
Yeah, that's it. It's
because they look fucking weird. Some big ass bodybuilders, man. You couldn't pay me to look like that.
Yeah, most people wouldn't want to look like
that. Would you want to look like Ronnie Coleman?
No.
Would you fuck?
And you look at Ronnie now, bless him, and he's
I watched the documentary.
Way,
it's fucking horrible.
And he was one of the strongest, biggest guys out there, and from that to where he is now, whereas we don't know quite what's going to happen with some of these CrossFitters in the future. When we see Matt Fraser, has he totally trashed his body from all this training he's doing? Maybe, but we'll wait and see. And in moderation, doing some CrossFit every week, definitely. A little bit of isolated strength work, a little bit of long endurance type work, and you've got a nice mix there to keep you ticking over, and you don't get bored of it, you don't get stale of it. And that's sort of where I'm at with things, which is different to a lot of the guys that do the physique shows. Even though they're not training to be bodybuilders, a lot of them kind of step on the stage for the physique shows, decide to go that route and train that way. And it's a shame because a lot of them build great physiques, but they're actually not that fit as well. So it's kind of that whole instrument or ornament type thing. And it's like, what do you want to do? Do you just want to look good? Great. If that's what you want to do, go do that. Or do you want to be healthy, be able to perform and look good? And it's a little bit harder. It takes a little bit longer, but I know which I choose, and it's working out all right for me at the minute.
Yeah.
So after you.
No, go for it, mate.
So in a typical week, then, what's your training looking like? How many days a week are you training?
I train every day. Most days I train twice a day, which is the first session in the morning is literally...
What time is that at?
Between kind of 5:30, the alarm will go for 5:45-ish. And then, I'm up and I do something for half an hour at the most to 20 minutes. And it's not always... If you saw it, you'd be like...
Is that at home that you...
Yeah, so like I've got a home gym set up, and I've got weights and everything else. Most of the time that workout you'd look at and you'd be like, that's barely a workout. And it is. It's literally just moving. It's I got a trampoline the other day.
Yes.
Yeah, decent.
This is proper strange, this one, right? So I had a bit of a calf injury and I was like, I'm going to get a trampoline because I've read something online from NASA says trampolines are the business, and for rehab and all this kind of stuff. So I was like, right, I'm giving that a go. So I've got a little trampette in the garage. So first thing I do, it does make me feel better, is literally jump up and down on that for 2 minutes. It looks bonkers, but it really works. It helps with the lymphatic drainage as well. So I feel great when I get off that. I then do some sort of cardio of some description, sometimes some sort of weights, but it just kind of, it depends on what I've done the day before. If I dropped in with a CrossFit class and my shoulders are killing me because there were loads of shoulders in it, I do something that's kind of whole body, but based more around using my legs and just at a low intensity. So the first session of the day, it's not really a proper hard training session. It's literally just moving, just to wake me up, just to get me ready for the day for 20 minutes, 30 minutes at the most. I'm off into work, and then when I finish work, I have a couple of people that I work with on an evening doing some personal training at the gym, and then I usually do my own training before or after that, depending on kind of what time I get down there, whether I've had meetings, and that'll be a proper training session. It'll either be proper strength work based around Olympic lifts, power lifts, or based around a CrossFit WOD or dragging sleds, flipping tyres, that kind of thing. And then at the weekends, I tend to try and get out on my bike or get out for a bit of a run in the sunshine and get something good done. Like living in Leeds, it's brilliant because you've got the Dales, the moors all just up the road, and the side of Leeds we're on out towards Ponty is fantastic for a bit of road cycling. You're off, middle of nowhere with, before you know it, just cruising along the lanes. So that's kind of my typical week. Sunday I usually take off completely and then back in on Monday. So
how do you structure your diet then? Are you eating clean, or do you how do you structure your diet?
Do you monitor what you're eating as well?
Yeah, I'm not like, we're watching one of these dating programs the other guy, and the guy turned up with his pocket scales. That's never kind of been me. And
turned up with a pocket scales?
Turned up with pocket scales. And put them down on the table, and his date was just like, what? And, I'm not like that at all. And to be fair, the week before my show, I was in the Indian down the road having a curry after I'd done a CrossFit WOD, which is, not what most people would suggest you do, but, there was method behind my madness, and it kind of worked out for me. So, it's one of those with diet and nutrition. I have a really kind of structured routine because of the way my days work at school. I'm kind of, I've got certain times when it's break and lunch and after school when I can manage to get a quick snack in, which it's not great, but quite often I rely on protein shakes at those times. At lunchtime, I'm always a kind of fish and salads. So it's like a big box of salad leaves, olives, tomatoes, peppers, that kind of thing. Lots of olive oil, and then mackerel or salmon usually in there. So that's my lunch pretty much every day, Monday to Friday, which, some people are like, oh, but then you've got people that have sandwiches every day from the age of 7 till 16, and they won't
pack
think twice.
Lunch.
Yeah, this is it. So it's like, it's my version of the pack up.
Yeah.
And, I'm on with that. It doesn't need any cooking either, which is brilliant. So in terms of having to spend hours doing food prep, it's just throw it in a Tupperware container. I can get to the supermarket, prep my food in an hour. Yeah. And it's like, it's done for the week. And breakfast for me is pretty much always scrambled eggs, blend up a bit of a green drink with some spinach and some other bits and pieces in there, and small bowl of porridge. Or if I'm in the run up to a show, then I pull the porridge out. Or if I'm doing a lot of training, then I might add some nuts in as well to get my calories a bit higher. Dinner in the evening, clean foods again, cooked at home, and it's always kind of usually red meat with some sort of starches, rice or potatoes, and some more veg. And that's my day pretty much done. So it's nothing fancy. It's not 6 meals a day. There's a few little things that I play around with that are a bit different. So in shakes that I have during the day, I prefer not to have kind of blood sugar spikes during the day. So I like to keep that nice and steady. So I try and fuel myself off fats as much as possible, because I'm not really doing any activity other than walking around the room. So it's olive oils and MCT oils added into my protein shakes. That just keeps me ticking along nicely there, keeps me fueled. It doesn't leave me feeling hungry either. And in the mornings in the green drink, I try and make sure I've got my kefir in there, which is this Polish fermented drink. Just helps with your gut bacteria. So the idea of looking after all the bacteria in your gut, because you've got a digestive system that's just, it's a big long tube, and if you're not looking after it, everything will just pass through it and it won't get absorbed properly. So I like to try and look after that. And a lot of the reason I'm eating the green foods at lunchtime, all the salad leaves, and the same in the green drink, is to give them the fibre that they need to be able to work properly. So creatine's thrown in there, and then supplements-wise, mention vitamin D. I'll have some omega-3 oils, and that's pretty much it. ZMA as well. Just at the end of the day to help with sleeping and trying to improve the quality of that.
Yeah, do you know what? To make people not freak out when they're listening to this, you didn't just do that all at once, did you? You learned it along the way, and that's what people listen to it, and they'll look at him like, oh, this guy's fucking jacked, and he knows everything. So, why the fuck don't I know everything? And that's it. That's all. I think that's always people's fear with fitness sometimes.
And it's like, you get people go, how what should I eat? Give me a plan. And you're like, no, it's not going to work. It might, but for 3 or 4 weeks, and you see all these transformation things, and I put transformation pictures up there from people that I've helped and things, but they're transformations in most cases where they've been over a longer time scale, and the aim isn't a body transformation. The aim is to make sustainable progress. And I was chatting with one of the clients the other day, and she was just saying, I was like, does it feel like you're on a diet? Because if it does, it's not what we're looking for. I didn't say that bit to her, but I was like, do you feel like you're on a diet? And she was like, no, it's just habit now. And she'd changed from having breakfast cereal to having eggs or yogurt in the morning. and she'd change from having kind of salads and sandwiches and stuff to just consciously trying to have something that wasn't as high in carbohydrates at lunchtime. And carbs aren't the worst thing in the world. You need them. I think, you know, anything that restricts you with carbs or means you've got to just have a high fat diet, that's not great. You know, it's calorie deficit to lose weight, but there are some benefits to kind of pulling those types of foods out. And, you know, she's feeling loads better and made great progress from it. And like you say, it's building habits almost, rather than here's a plan, follow it, because the plan always has an end. Whereas if it becomes a habit, you're going to stick to it. It's like, you know, I started off every morning kind of, you know, I have a coffee every morning and I have a bit of warm water as well. And it's like, that didn't used to be a habit. And then I've made it habit. And like we were talking about showers before we started recording, and the cold shower thing, that became a habit, not by choice, but because every time I opened the shower door, I'd flood the bathroom. So I had to have cold showers and then let it warm up, and I could leave the door shut. So I just got used to it. And then, you know, all of these little things, if you try and do them all at once, it's not going to happen. It's like if you tried to learn all of CrossFit at once, you see this a lot as well. I'm going to learn muscle ups this month, double unders, and I'm going to learn how to do some Olympic lifting. And before you know it, you're broken, or you just haven't learned any of them. You've just got to kind of pick one thing and kind of chase that, or pick two things that you're going to do for 3 weeks. So with most people that I work with, I kind of go, right, we're going to swap one thing, we're going to add one thing in, and we're going to take one thing out. So it's like, you know, that makes it more sustainable, it's more focused. And as humans, like, we're great at doing things for a short period of time, but like when it comes to long-term sustainability, that's where all the good results come from. And that's where we've got to kind of get to with people. I think with healthcare as well, it's not, let's do, you know, a January thing, a 1 year thing. It's just make it a habit, and try and make it easy for yourself so you don't have to think about it. Take those choices out of your day.
Yeah, do you know, it's so true. I think it's the same for, it can be applied to everything in your whole life. Laura Bartlett gave us the book, The Compound Effect, and that's all it is. It's just a compounding effect of small little changes every single day, and you see it, and it will compound into something really, really big.
The whole marginal gains thing.
That's it.
British
Reviewing
cycling,
it.
Yeah.
What can be improved? What can be taken out?
Yeah.
What can that change? So big. So it sounds like you're fitting a lot into your days, into your week there.
It does when I say it like that. It's like, I've got this diet I'm following, or say this nutrition plan, and I've got this training I'm doing, and I'm working all the time. And, you know, it's flat out, but I'm happy when I'm busy. And, you know, I've got a very understanding wife who, you know, bless her, she's as mad as me when it comes to training and exercise and being out and about doing stuff. And she's busy with her work as well. So, it's a case of getting that balance. So at the weekends, you know, once Saturday kind of 10 o'clock comes and we've finished training or whatever, it's then kind of our time to chill out, family time, and do all those normal things as well, and head out for a beer and have a nice meal out. Because it's, you know, if I'm doing that Monday to Friday, I can get away with, you know, I say get away with, but I can enjoy myself at the weekend, and I don't have to worry about it. And, you know, I couldn't do that initially until I got to a stage where I was kind of, where I got control almost and got my metabolism to where I wanted it to be, and managed to do that. But now I'm pretty much there, so I feel that I'm not kind of roller coaster of bulking and cutting and going all round with that. So it's just consistent, and I've been doing that for best part of 2 years now and feel fine on it. So
Nice. So how do you manage your time then, with keeping your routine in order, keeping your training in order? How do you manage that time and keep yourself accountable?
Yeah, it is literally just routines and keeping yourself accountable. It's kind of like, you know, you've got a job, you've got to do that. That's what's paying your bills, and you know, that's important. And then the other side of it is you've just got to put the work in. Like, it's very easy to get distracted, like we were talking about with the kids and phones, and we've all done it ourselves, I'm sure. Sat down, start scrolling, you're like, 15 minutes are gone. Or you're like, I picked up my phone to look at the calendar to plan something, and before you know it, you're scrolling through feeds, or you're looking at the different things. And I've just got to be quite on it with that side of stuff. And I don't know, I suppose I always have been. I've been quite focused. So it just helps me to get through those things and just try and avoid distraction. And I guess somewhere there's some sacrifices being made. There might be the odd social event or occasion that I miss out on, or that I have to kind of swerve, or certainly on weekday evenings I don't tend to do much else other than work and train and that kind of thing. But just being efficient with your working as well is a big one. It's like, you know, it's super important. I think when you do sit down to do your work, that you are switched on and focused, and you find the times that you work well, and you try and plan ahead to work in those times. So like being a teacher, I know when I'm going to be busy sometimes. If I've got mock exams, I know I'm going to have shed loads of marking. So I know the weekends around then, I'm going to have to sit down and I'm going to have to do a full Sunday of marking pretty much to get that done. And it's the same for every teacher, but there's so many hours in the week. I think there was a post the other day up somewhere that had worked it all out, and it was like, there's 40 hours in the week left for you to do stuff with. What are you going to do with those 40 hours? And I'm like, oh, yeah, and I haven't got that commute anymore. So actually, I've got more than 40 hours. And then you're like, right, I'm off. What else can I do? But it's one of those, I think, just managing it effectively and planning ahead. It's no secret, unfortunately. It's literally that boring. I still use a paper diary, still write everything down, and work it out that way.
Well, that's it. I think it's to everyone to find their own method of what works, and the important thing is just to reflect what you're doing, make sure it's efficient, and if there's any way of making it better, how you can do it. So.
And just be honest with yourself, I think,
That's
because
a
you
big
can
one.
fucking like lie to yourself all the
That's it.
time,
Like-
like proper justify it to yourself.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
The one thing I'm terrible at with it is being like, I've got 15 minutes so I can have a shower, get ready, do this, do that, and do this. And then it's like,
Ambitious.
yeah, it's definitely far too ambitious. So I'm like, I'm going to pop to the gym, pop to the supermarket, do this, clean the car, cut the lawn, and then I'll be ready to go at 1 o'clock. Yeah, and the wife's like, are you ready? And I'm like, yeah.
Let's check off all these things.
But it's definitely be ambitious with it, but be realistic.
Yeah.
So you won Body Power. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so I saw the advert on the Body Power website, and it was for castings for then Model Power Search to qualify for that. And I'd done the Pure Elite show 2 years before, and had won my pro card at that in the muscle model category as my first attempt on stage. And I was like, not bad at this. I can stand in a pair of Speedos on a stage, and I found my talent. And I was like, maybe. And then I was like, well, yeah, it was a bit strange because it's the first time I've ever done anything that's judged. And it was like, it's not like a rugby game or a bike race where there's a definite end point or there's a score. It's like you come off stage and you're like, oh. And like, backstage at these shows is hilarious as well. Like they're quite good fun, but absolutely hilarious the first time you're there. You've got people that are somewhat drunk because they've been on white wine trying to dehydrate themselves. You've got other people who have finished their shows who are scoffing donuts and cakes like mad. Everyone's this kind of unusual, like spray tan kind of mahogany type colour from the spray tan, and spray tans on everything. It's just everywhere, and it's kind of sweating off people. It's horrible. And then, people in various states of undress in Speedos, and you've got all the bikini girls as well, kind of getting ready and doing hair and makeup. And I was like, I'm not sure this is really for me. And I was like, yeah. So I left it for 2 years, didn't really think anything else of it. And then this Body Power thing came up, and it had adverts of various prizes. And I was like, oh, that looks like it's worth a shot, because I didn't really win anything at the other one apart from this pro card. And to me, I was like, what does this mean? I've got a pro card. Like, what comes with it? Like, swipe it somewhere.
Yeah.
What goes with a pro card?
Yeah, well, you don't get
This is
anything.
it. It's just this coveted pro card. What it did, it qualified me for another show, and I was like, oh, for free? No, you got to pay for the next show as well. But like, they're a great company, Pure Elite. I say company, like organisation that run these shows as well, and they've grown and grown. That was, I think, the first or second year they've been going, and so they've now got to a higher level with it, and they're offering various things. They offer quite a bit of support, and they have various groups going on and posing camps and all this kind of stuff. And the posing again is a big part of it that I didn't really enjoy. It was kind of spending ages down the road at MP Fit, and Charles Townsend, who's a local guy, he's from Morley as well, was helping us out with my posing, and like literally just walking up and down, tensing, walk back, tense, turn, smile while you're tensing. And he was like, well, look like you're happy. And it's like, what? And
Yeah, that can get quite tedious.
Yeah, this is it. So like, and you have to practice it every day. And it got to the point where I was like, how am I going to make this better? I practice it when I'm outside because it's nice weather. And then you're like, this really isn't a good idea. You've got neighbours looking over the fence. What are you doing? But it's one of those. So I kind of had a break from it, saw the prizes advertised, and was like, I might as well have a go. I'm in good nick. And I'd been doing the CrossFit then for maybe best part of probably the 2 years since I finished the show, because I kind of prepared for that show just doing my rugby training and a lot of Olympic weightlifting. And so this next one I'd been doing CrossFit right up to it, and was like, yeah, I'll go for it. Got through the qualifiers, went to the final, and I was still very much in my head. I was like, watched the girls show on the Saturday, I think it was, and then the men's show was on the Sunday. And Body Power was fascinating. Have you ever been down there?
I've been once.
Yeah, what did you make of it?
Fucking weird. I think it's a bit weird, me. There's a lot of people just queuing up for free shit, really.
Yeah.
And then the free shit is really fucking bad.
It was terrible. Or queuing up for selfies for hours. So
yeah, I was like, I've seen that guy on YouTube, but there's no way I'm getting in a fucking hour-long queue for him to go, hey, mate.
Yeah.
Like, fuck off now. So I'm just like, yeah, all right. I went round, ate a few free bits. I must have been there a couple of hours.
So
literally not long.
I kind of had two objectives when I was there. I was like, there's some seminars on, so I can geek out and listen to some like proper nerdy science stuff in the education bit that they had. That was good. And then I wanted to pick up some gym equipment and do this show. And on the Saturday, I was in two minds whether I'd even turn up and do it. I was like, oh, like, you know, and I was kind of, the missus was away and a load of my mates were kind of like, they weren't able to make it down. So I was kind of like, well, I could just leave it and head home and don't need to worry about it. And I was fed up of like carb loading at this point as well. You eat so many rice cakes or like just so many carbs that your mouth's just in tatters by the end of this, trying to like fill out your muscles with glycogen. And so I was like, could leave it. And yeah, on the day I decided, right, no, I will go for it. And got up early, practiced me. You had to do a themed or sportswear it was called, because it's model search. It was slightly different to a normal bodybuilding show. So you did the physique part in your Speedos or your trunks kind of thing, like not bodybuilder, kind of like thong trunks, but just like swimwear. Yeah. And then you did your sportswear round. So you had people dressed as golfers, tennis players, all this kind of stuff.
Like shirtless. Jacked golfer.
Yeah, like ridiculously jacked golfers. And I was like, right, what sport can I do? I was like, I'm just going to go with rugby, and kind of came up with a routine in the morning for that. And yeah, it went down and it went really well. Like you kind of, it's weird as well, because it's judged. You don't know how you've done when you're on stage. And I remember, I think it was David Lundy off one of the reality shows. He was one of the judges, and then there were a couple of others. There was a photographer, and then a couple of female competitors who have competed at a high level. And they kind of come up at the end. Everyone gets a medal, and then you're like, right, go backstage, see what's happening. And you know, you've got an idea of who's done well and how you line up. But this is a weird thing with that sport. You never really know how you look yourself, because if you look at yourself in a mirror, you're like, oh, I look good, or I look terrible, or I look small, or I look bigger. If you look at the other guys who are around you, and when you're getting like your spray tans and that, it's like a communal spray tan room. It's it's really strange. So you see everyone else, and you're just like, oh no, that he's better than me. Oh, we're about the same. So you kind of in your head, you're like, how have I placed on this? Really didn't have a clue with this one. And then made top 5, made top 1, and yeah, got the prize, and was just like, oh, brilliant. Like,
what prize did you get for that then?
Bunch of flowers and trophy. Like, so the prizes with that were a little bit better. There was there was a photo shoot with a guy down in Nottingham called Alex Whiteman, and then there was some features in Muscle and Fitness as well, or one feature in there, which led to me then doing some more writing for them, because they kind of liked some of the photos from the photo shoot, and then liked what I wrote about them as well. So that was great to get that feature in there. And although magazines are not as popular as they used to be, it was still kind of, for me, having grown up reading, that was like, oh, now I'm writing for the magazine. That was like dead exciting for me. And it was an opportunity for me to write in the magazine about functional training as well, or CrossFit type training, rather than, you know, a lot of the stuff that's in the magazines. Although the market swung around a bit, a lot of the stuff that was traditionally in there was just bodybuilding. And I'm not hating on that, but it's just nice to put across a different perspective, even though you're kind of doing the same thing. And I think another big thing with it is this idea that you can only be like that for 2 or 3 weeks at the very most. And, you know, right now I'm planning on doing another show in April, and, you know, that's 6 weeks out. Where I'm at now is not dieting, just kind of living life as I do. And I'm not that far off, like, kind of where I need to be for that, because the physique shows aren't quite as extreme, and the idea is it's a healthy body, so you should be able to maintain it for a lot longer. And yeah, it's like an athlete, really. You don't kind of want to just be in shape for one game in the season and out of shape for the rest of the season. You'd soon get sacked. So yeah, so that was when was that? That was May last year. And then off the back of that, I've kind of just focused on my training. Got a few CrossFit events lined up, doing a couple of partner events with guy you should probably have a chat with about social media, actually, a guy called Dan Tay, who's from Leeds.
That's so random, he's coming in after you.
Is he?
Yeah, he's the next guy in there.
Oh, you're kidding. We were just messaging each other earlier about the CrossFit Open. He's like, oh, good luck with it tonight. And I'm like, yeah, so that's who I'm doing the CrossFit events with.
Yeah.
So
cool.
That's funny. But yeah, so we've got that coming up, and it'll be interesting to see. And then summer holidays will kick in, and if the show goes well, then I think there's a qualifier for something else. But it's one of those, I don't like to take them too seriously or put pressure on myself with them. It's just a case of it motivates me to keep my training ticking along then as well. So the CrossFit competitions have been great for that, because then it forces you to focus on the performance rather than just the looks as well.
Yeah, I think it's quite a nice mix, really, because obviously it's because you've been training for so long. It's a good way to find like small, like, put goals in there to work towards something, because otherwise I think that's what people struggle with sometimes, because they might get to their goal or a physique that they're happy with, and then what?
That's it.
It's like, oh, I kind of lose my way, and then that's why when people are like, oh yeah, fuck this, I'll just start smashing a few dominoes, and then they're back at the cycle again. This is
kind of like, it's what's great about CrossFit, but at the same time, what's like a big issue with it as well is that there's always something that you can get better at. And it's the idea that you always go back to basics with CrossFit. So you're like, I can squat, I can deadlift, and then you like go off and you do a load of other stuff, and then you're like, But now my squat and deadlift haven't got any better. I go back to them because there's always something you're practicing. So yeah, it's that whole idea that you mentioned earlier about kind of reflecting on things and evaluating and going back through and having a goal, and whether it's short term or long term. I think, some people, that you've had on will have huge goals, but to get to those, they've got to set those short term goals and weekly almost to-do lists or things that you've got to work on to get there, and just keeping it simple and making it fun. And again, if it becomes a habit, getting up and training or going to the gym in the evening, if that becomes habit for you, then fantastic. Or going out for a run, whatever it is, just to try and make you feel better, because there's so many people that just aren't doing anything.
Yeah, I think I had this conversation. Was it me and you was chatting? Like, I couldn't imagine just going home and just not doing anything. Like going home and sitting down. I think someone in the office or something. I was like, I couldn't imagine just finishing work and then just fucking sitting there, like not doing all with a day.
Yeah.
So some people ask like, oh, you go to the gym, and then like, how do you go every morning? It's like, have you ever said to yourself you'll go to the gym and then you don't go, and all you think about all day is how much of a fucking shit person you are because you didn't go. So like, just fucking go for an hour, then you're done out here.
That's it. Yeah. Do you train most mornings then?
I'll go in the morning if I'm at home, like I was chatting before. Like if I'm not traveling for work, I'll go to the gym. I'll convince myself when I'm away I'll do a few press ups in my room, but I'll fucking don't. But then Julian's like you, he's got a gym at his house, so I stayed at his house. I stayed at his a couple of weeks ago. And it was fucking nice to get up and just be able to walk into a room and train. It was proper decent.
Do you know what, though, the home gym thing, that's super hard. I don't know if you find this. You're like, when I first moved, because we used to live just down the road in Batley, and when we moved over towards, like, we're kind of in the villages out towards Selby and Ponty out that way, all of a sudden I went from having a number of really good gyms on my doorstep that were kind of walking distance almost from my house, and I was regularly in one of them in the morning and one in the evening, because it took 5 minutes to get there, and it wasn't really, unless I was doing some cardio, worth kind of training at home. And then I moved out there. I was like, I'm just going to set up a gym in my garage. Brilliant. And did that. And then you're just like, I don't really, like, the first week goes by, you're like, oh, great, new equipment. And then, very soon, you're like, no one will know if I don't train. And
see, like, for me, it was the other way around. It was going out to the gym and making the commute was just like pissing me off. I was like, oh, I don't want to stay in traffic. Yeah. Big queue in the gym, waiting for the machines. I thought, you know what, I'm going to make a home gym. Yeah. And then from making the home gym, I am using it a lot more than I was going to the gym. So, for now. So,
no, I definitely, I've had the odd day where I'm like, just kind of, I miss a round off this, or I won't go that heavy, or just take it a bit easy. And there's no one, and you know what gyms are like for people watching. There's just always people looking and stuff, and you can't go in the gym and not work out, because people be like, who's that guy just stood there not doing anything? Yeah. Whereas I can go in my garage and I can very quickly get distracted or start cooking while I'm working out. That's like my real time saver.
Yeah, that's a downside. Cooking and working out.
And I'm like, I just go do that, and then I come in and do a few squats, and I'm like, I don't really fancy it, and then I'm like, just cook a bit more. And there's only been the odd session where that happens, but it's it's one of those where I think the home gym's brilliant, like you say, for dodging the commute and saving time. But you've got to be motivated to keep working at home.
Yeah, that's it. It's because you can't do everything at home. Well, I find I can't do everything at home because I don't have all the equipment. So it's a gift and a curse. I will be joining the gym, I reckon, around summertime, just to do some extra bits. Yeah. But with winning Body Power and doing the show prior to that 2 years before, did you change any of your routines or how you looked into training, or was it kind of the same mindset?
Training wise, stayed pretty much identical. I was playing rugby those winters as well, so the shows were always, I think the Pure Elite one was maybe June, July time, and then the Body Power was May, so that was only, I think, 4 or 5 weeks after the season finished. So my training going through was pretty much the same. My nutrition changed, and I just cleaned it up, so at the weekends I wouldn't kind of go out for a nice meal or have a few beers, and 3 or 4 weeks out, made sure I cut those things out. The rest of it stayed pretty much the same. Like I'd start to weigh my porridge oats because I couldn't guess how many were in there, and that suddenly became important. And little bits like that, but that was literally the only changes. So it was quite sustainable for me. And the peak week as such, when people are talking about being on death's door and feeling terrible and doing all this water, messing around, and for me, I didn't do that. Like, my routine was, I'm going to drink loads of water so that then I can get rid of lots of water. The idea is you're flushing your system out, basically. So I was going to the toilet a lot, drinking lots of water, kept my sodium levels high. But then I never did the bit that a lot of them do that makes it really difficult, where they then cut all their water out, because you're not making weight. It's not like you're trying to get on the scales and be a certain weight, which you do for some shows because they have categories, but this one didn't. It was everyone, all heights and all sizes. So the next bit then was like, right, if I cut out the water, how am I going to get a pump on the day? because you need to have water to be able to have enough blood volume to be able to get a good pump. You also need to have the water in to be able to load the carbohydrates in as glycogen, because to form that, you've just got to have that there. And it was a different mentality. Like, we're sat backstage and you've got the guys who are sat there who have not drank anything for 3 days, which is, you know, it's a terrible strategy. And, you know, your hormone that encourages your kidneys to filter out your water by that point will have declined anyway. So they're kind of really struggling. And you've got me sat there with a couple of litres of water, a flask full of coffee, and they're like, how many cups of coffee have you just drank? And I'm washing it down with some water. They're like, what are you doing? And it's like, you know, and it's different. And I think there's a lot of miseducation in it. And some people would sit here and they'd argue with me about this. And, you know, for bodybuilding shows, it's slightly different because they're doing slightly different things. And obviously there's all the chemical enhancement side of it. For natural physique guys, which I'd like to think all of them are as well, is that, I'm being a bit naive, they're probably not. But on that side of it, like, you know, I think they've just got to be careful about who they pick for coaches and make sure they understand it as best they can themselves, because they do run the risk of doing some serious damage with some of the things that they're doing. And, you know, they're then taking huge amounts of salt or taking huge amounts of really dry food to try and dry themselves out. And in my opinion, if you're not there in that last week, you're not going to be there. So it's like that last week really should be almost like the easiest week. If your show's on the Saturday, by Wednesday, all the hard work's done. You know, you're not really going to mess it up. And so many of them afterwards go out for these big cheap meals, and then the next day they're like, oh, I look better than the day of the show. And it's, you know, it's a shame. It's one of those, it's like you kind of learn with experience. Obviously I'm no expert in it, having only done a few shows, but for me, that's kind of what I've found has worked much better. And the couple of photo shoots I've done as well, I've used exactly the same methodology. Just water high, carbs high, last few days, not a problem, and you feel great, you're energised, you're able to do stuff. And yeah, it'd be good to kind of test it out and almost go, right, we'll do a physique show and a CrossFit workout or like some sort of strength competition on the same day, and just kind of really push that boundary and kind of this idea of not just looking good but being good with it. So
yeah, it'd be interesting if they ever put in some sort of a strength challenge in a physique show.
Because then the guys couldn't be dried out, could they?
Yeah.
Or at least, you know, they'd be really pushing their luck if they were. And yeah, originally that was kind of my plan at Body Power, was to do the CrossFit competition on the Saturday and the Body Power on the Sunday. But then they changed the dates round, and it was like, it's not going to work. I can't be going from kind of one side to the other and trying to do all that. So that's still sort of something I'm playing with in my head as a bit of an idea. But yeah, the next show I'm doing is in Hull, so it won't be too difficult to get in the gym afterwards and yeah, maybe document what I'm doing with that.
Yeah, definitely keep us posted. That'll be pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice one. Do you know what? It's been really good to talk to you, because I think sometimes it goes into that whole bro sciencey side, and like we went to, when we were going to the gym at like 15, 16, like people just say mad shit to you, and you're just like, you believe them,
right?
You just believe that fucking
like,
shit. You're like
this pre-workout,
running off to running
it.
back into the fucking locker room, trying to neck a protein shake instantly. All you fucking training's worthless. So it's nice, and then obviously you've backed it up with a bit of science, and you do your research. So it's nice to see. It's nice to sit and listen to someone that's actually done the homework and then implemented it as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks for taking. Honestly, thanks for taking the time for coming in.
No, it's been great. So yeah, thank you, and I'll keep you posted on the next show and the plan to kind of do something extra with that, and yeah, it'd be great.
Sounds good. Well, if people want to find you, where can they go?
Instagram's the best place. I don't really put much else out. That's kind of one thing that time-wise I do struggle with, is the whole social media bit. So it's Wills_Myth, and yeah, that's on there. So people can find me on that, and yeah, any questions, messages, that kind of thing, then yeah, you can see that or just follow along.
Boom. Bang that in the description. Thanks for coming on again, Will.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Good.